We're changing lives. We are not only transforming houses and investing and creating a legacy for my children and my grandchildren. Every day I get, thank you, Terri. You don't know what this means to me. You don't know how you've helped me.
Welcome back to the Freedom Blueprint. I am here with Terri Arcieri. Thank you for joining me today, Terri.
Thank you for having me.
Terri is a past client that I've gotten to know well, and I'm really excited for her to share her story and experience with us here on this episode. So it's a really unique story. It's really awesome. It's very personal. I'm excited to dig in. So let's start, Terri, with kind of share for our listeners, what does your real estate investing look like, big picture?
So big picture, I buy single family houses, and they're unique houses because they usually have 5 bedrooms, at least 3 bathrooms, and are close to public transportation because I service a clean and sober community. And so the houses that I buy are that type.
Right. And so I am so excited, Terri, to have you come share the story. You're the first person we've had on who really focuses on this sober living niche. And your story is so striking. I know that you have a personal connection to addiction and that you built this nonprofit and this business around this recovery housing. And I'm curious, what was the moment that you knew your pain story would become your purpose?
So my pain story is in my early 20s, I did get on drugs and did have an addiction and lasted for probably 5 or 6 years. And it was a terrible time in my life. And then I actually got delivered by God from drugs. So I didn't have to go through a recovery process, but I did have the experience of being addicted. 25 years later, my little sister went through addiction and she was able to move into a clean and sober house. So of course I went to visit her there many times, and it was really cool because they gave her the foundation. Well, she was forced to be clean and sober when she lived there. They test you to make sure you're clean and sober, but then they also connected you to the community, like all the programs that you would need, AA, NA type things. And then they worked together as a team. The whole house worked together as a team to foster an environment of recovery. And I just watched her blossom. She went from homelessness to getting a job, to putting her whole life back together, reconnecting with her family. She's thriving amazingly today. So I saw that. And then as a real estate investor, because I own a real estate company and I've been a real estate investor, that I saw lots of opportunity to invest into it myself. And then, I have that personal connection with recovery.
I love that because so often in the real estate investing space, we just have people who see the latest hot thing, right? The shiny object syndrome. This is the investing strategy that we need to do now, whether it's, pad split or RV parks or multifamily or BRRRR was so big for a long time, or sober living, right? When it became more difficult to cash flow, sober living really took off. But I love that it's like, no, you really you've seen the difference that these houses can make for people in your own family's experience. And so you really bring a lot more to that investing, and you really chose something that was a personal niche for you.
Yeah. And I really like it. I mean, we're changing lives. We are not only transforming houses and investing and creating a legacy for my children and my grandchildren, but we're transforming lives. So every day when I go over there, I don't go over there every day, but every day I get, thank you, Terri. You don't know what this means to me. You don't know how you've helped me. And I mean, seriously, I'm a hugger. So I get lots of hugs and it's totally worth it. I mean, it really connects with me spiritually and, in my heart. And we're helping our community.
The next question I had, if we can continue down this road, is along those lines, how do your faith and your spiritual life inform your approach to business and investing, especially in this space of recovery housing that can be emotionally heavy?
It can be emotionally heavy. There's a lot of tragedy, a lot of lives destroyed, people who are 35, 45 years old, rebuilding, starting all over again. And it's kind of sad, families were destroyed. And so meeting people where they're at, understanding like the recovery part, because I did go through addiction. I can understand that recovery is a journey and sometimes you screw up and you got to keep starting over. And it's like being on a diet. You tell yourself, I am not going to eat that ice cream, but then you do it anyway, even though you said you weren't going to do it. So for me, it is a real joy. And then also I'm an entrepreneur. So I get to buy real estate. I formed a nonprofit organization who is the tenant. So I buy the real estate and then I rent it or lease it to my tenant, which is the nonprofit, which is the entity that hosts the people that come to live there.
Perfect. So let's talk a little bit about that model. So how do you balance this nonprofit side and the for-profit side in your model?
So this is really, I think it might be unique to me. I don't know. It's pretty creative. So in a clean and sober environment, we put 2 people to a bedroom, which is different than the pad split co-living model because they all had private rooms. So, and then each person paid by a program. They're brought to me by a program, and it's usually a state or county program or like Department of Corrections or somebody coming out of the treatment center. So they're paid by grants. Usually they'll pay for like 6 months of living while the people get on their feet, get their jobs, and become productive again. And then also I can apply for grants. It's my new hobby this year, applying for grants because of the nonprofit. And so I was able to apply for grants last year and I was awarded $450,000 in grants, which helped me. I mean, I personally bought the houses, doing all different kinds of real estate strategies, but then I was able to fill the houses, put the furniture in there, and pay for support from the grants.
So obviously you've brought some to you're doing the real estate investing, you're bringing the down payment, buying the houses and stuff. And yet on the nonprofit side for operating the houses, it sounds like some, if not all of the tenants have some funding behind them. And then you also have other government grants you can apply for. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
So how it works is I usually charge, as the investor, I'll buy the house and then I will charge $1,000 over whatever my mortgage is, my PITI. I'll charge $1,000 over that. And then the tenant is a nonprofit that I'm the founder of, can apply for the property taxes to be waived, which, in Washington state are pretty large. So then that amount of money is part of my PITI, so I no longer have to pay that. So it works out to about $1,500 a house on the investor side. And then in the business, the nonprofit business, of course, we're actually doing work. And so we get paid for work services provided. I really don't want W-2 income. I don't want any more W-2 income because it's taxed so heavily. So what we did was we wrote an agreement, a memorandum of understanding to work with my real estate company who provides operations management. And the real estate company is an S corporation. And when you're an S corporation, you can pull down money different ways through distributions. You can do write-offs. You can take money different ways. So the real estate company invoices the nonprofit and the nonprofit pays the real estate company.
Yeah, no, you did a great job explaining that. So thank you. I love how you set that up. Super smart. And what I'm thinking listeners would also like to appreciate or to know is for this sober living recovery housing, you're in Washington state. They love to have a lot of regulations and licensing. So what does that look like in terms of accreditation, licensing, or regulatory hurdles that you have to deal with in this space?
So you do not need any licensing to do a clean and sober house in any state, as far as I know. And people who have substance use disorder are covered under fair housing laws. And so you can have as many people live together as a family if they've had substance use in their past, or maybe it's even alcohol. You're protected under fair housing laws. So in essence, you don't have to be licensed. You're not a licensed home. I have chosen to get certifications for my homes, but it's not required.
Wow, that's even easier than you would think, even in the state of Washington.
The state of Washington does have hefty landlord-tenant laws. We do not have a landlord-tenant relationship with the clients. It is actually a program. We're running a program, clean and sober program. And so they are paying program fees, not rent. And they are. And the state of Washington is very friendly towards recovery homes. And they even have laws on the books to help support us because we are not landlord tenant.
Super smart. I love that. Now, thinking about the properties, your process for selecting properties. I know you mentioned that you want them to have a lot of bedrooms. I think you said 5. Was that right?
I try to buy houses with 5 or more bedrooms, but we can convert garage spaces. We can as long as we have at least 3 bathrooms and 5
Okay.
bedrooms. If I need to add more, I can.
I was going to ask, what is your process for selecting properties? Like, what do you look for? Any certain locations, any certain other characteristics? You want at least 5 bedrooms, at least 3 bathrooms. Is there anything else you're looking for?
Yes. We try to be close to public transportation because people walk. We're really close to the bus lines. And then ideally, we would like to have services around, like groceries and other type of services within walking distance, or to get on the bus. And then also, I need parking. We need lots of parking. They're only allowed to have 1 car each, which is a challenge sometimes for them. And it has to be a good working car. Can't be broke down in the driveway. And, I try not to be very close to schools, but, we are sometimes, but we try not to be, just because sometimes the demographic of people living in our houses, that's just a personal philosophy.
Right. It could ruffle some feathers. I know we've talked about it before, Terri, and I'd love for you to share with our listeners, with your business, there's so much that can go into operations for running this recovery housing. And so I'd love for you to share some of your wisdom of ensuring your operational standards, your accountability in these homes, especially because you have scaled across multiple locations and you've done a great job handing off responsibility to people within your team. Share your wisdom on that.
What I have now is I have a house manager, live-in house manager in each of the houses. And how that house manager gets paid is that person gets a free room that's private. They don't have to share. And I'll usually take the smallest room in the house, because usually there's a small one, and give them a private room. And then they're usually at least a year and a half clean and sober, and I vet them carefully. And how I usually get my house managers is I will reach out to the community, to like treatment centers or other house managers, and ask for recommendations. And then I've got some really good people that way. They're like a house father. All my houses currently are for men only, so they have to make sure they follow the rules. And I have 19-page house rule, 19 pages of house rules. So there's a lot. But to live in community, you have to be clean. You have to be a law-abiding citizen. You have to, have a curfew and things like that. One of my houses, it's just turned out beautifully. I got a house that has a mother-in-law unit. So it's a detached 1-bedroom unit. And I have my operations manager living there. And so he manages the managers. And then as far as the business end, I'm reaching out to you because I need to get a virtual assistant. I'm trying to use AI tools and a virtual assistant to streamline the workload on me.
Right, because you've got these house managers, operations manager who can do all of the boots on the ground stuff, right? Who can be there physically managing the houses. But then what falls on your plate is the stuff that is on the computer or on the phone, right? All the operations, managing all those pieces, the accounting, the finance, the grant writing, and all of that. And so that's where hopefully we can help you get a fabulous virtual assistant to take a lot of that computer-based, phone-based operations work off your plate so that you can continue to grow and scale, right?
That's the dream.
If you are serious about scaling your real estate business, you need the Freedom Blueprint. This free guide breaks down the 10 essentials every investor must have to grow profitably while reducing stress. It's a proven roadmap to running your portfolio like a business, so you can stop working 24/7 and start building real wealth. Get your free copy now at adriennegreen.com or check the link in the show notes. But you've done so well. And so I'm curious, I love how you shared your recruiting process for these, the house managers, the operations manager, you get those personal references. What qualities do you look for? What would you say makes a successful house manager or operations manager?
They have to be able to be firm. There's usually 10 people in a house, which is a lot of people. And they're managing people who are recovering. And maybe they didn't grow up in a really clean environment. Maybe they came out of prison, which is a whole nother demographic. And, so the house manager has to have a little bit of thick skin and has to be able to reel them in when they're getting out of line. And that takes a certain personality type, and they have to have compassion. And like my house managers have to make sure these people, because they're in a program, right? So they have to go to like AA or NA or some type of program. They get to pick their own programs, but they have to start reconnecting with the community. go to church or volunteer somewhere. They have to get jobs. So that house manager kind of manages that part of their lives. And then every Sunday they have a house meeting as a whole house. They get together and they'll go over maybe a couple house rules. They'll go over the struggles that people are having, the wins, and they just kind of operate as a family for about an hour and have a house meeting.
I love that. And I think that's something when people have virtual assistants, when they've got businesses, I'm like, you can be across the world, but getting on that live call face to face is so powerful, and making sure that we all stay on the same page and handling little issues before they become big ones. So I love how that's a core piece of your house system, really, in operations. So we've talked a lot about the people. Let's also talk, how I love technology, right? I'm curious if there's any technology, software platforms that you have found really helpful for running these recovery residences.
I guess what I didn't tell you before is that I was a project manager for the government, and I have a master's degree in project management, and I learned to love Excel. So I use a lot of Excel, but I'm trying to move to a system. I mean, you introduced me to Monday.com, so I'm going to try to move to Monday.com to manage everything from a dashboard that other people can access. But for right now, it's mostly Excel spreadsheets.
Right. I get it. Once you make that transition, you're going to love Monday, but I feel you. My background is in finance, so I'm all about Excel too. I love it. Well, that takes us kind of like to the next piece. While we do these things to help improve people's lives, right? We're in real estate investing to make better houses, to make opportunities, to give people places to live. We also run it as a business. So I'm curious, for this recovery housing aspect, if there's anything you really would dive into in terms of financial metrics, like are you measuring occupancy, revenue, cost? Anything like that may be a little more different or nuanced from other investing strategies.
On the real estate side, do you want to talk about the business side or the real estate side?
Anything that somebody who's looking at recovery housing would help them to know. That's really my thought,
So, if you do the math, if I have 10 people, 9 of them are paying, and I charge $700 for a shared room per bed. There's 2 beds in a room, and then $950 for a private room, because I do have private rooms. So every house will bring in about from $6,500 to $7,000 a month. And so there is money there to pay a nice rental fee. There is money to pay for all the utilities of the house, for the maintenance. And then also the nonprofit is more than willing to help pay for any capital improvements that the house will need. So like right now, we're having a new furnace put in a house that I just bought. And the nonprofit is more than willing to help pay for a new furnace because it will be more energy efficient. And then also the nonprofit can apply for like an energy grant to have solar panels put on the roof, or we can get grants for capital improvement. So that helps both with the business side and the investor side. So the houses are very well taken care of. We have professional landscapers that come and take care of the landscaping. All the maintenance is done. And then another cool thing is, so most of the guys that live in my houses, they're all blue collar workers normally. And so they have skills. They know how to paint. They know how to sheetrock. They know how to put a roof on. They know how to repair things. And they love to do that. I actually hire them to do work on the houses. I make sure I vet them. I make sure that they actually have the skill set. In fact, my operations manager, since he's been with me a year and a half, opened his own construction company, which I helped him do. And he hires from within the houses people who have skills, and he puts them to work. And he also helped me to remodel the house that he's living in with a brand new roof, and repaired the deck and put new hand railings up, and, poured a new sidewalk out front, and all kinds of work, all kinds of stuff. So everybody's just getting blessed all the way around. Like, I'm getting blessed as the homeowner, and they're getting blessed because they're living in a place that they have physically, contributed to. So they feel like they have a little ownership.
That's awesome. It's really, I'm thinking of for your residents who are there, we know how important it is for self-esteem and everything to accomplish things, right? And
Right.
so you're giving them the opportunity to do that and to, start to, again, rebuild that self-esteem and value as they work to restart their lives. So love
And they're
that.
making money while they're doing it. So
Yeah, which is important too. Now, I know, Terri, that you're scaling. You're in hustle mode in a lot of ways. And I love that you're working to help more people, right? When you've got that great why, it makes it easier to do those hard things and grow so you can help more people. What are your biggest challenges as you're working to scale? And how are you solving them? Do you have any strategies to share?
So my biggest challenge is I'm flying solo. So I'm kind of a one-person show. I own a real estate brokerage and I'm the only broker. So I'm doing all that. And then I am buying these houses, doing the rehabs on them and filling them and all this stuff. So that is an obstacle. I think having the virtual team is really going to help me with that. For scaling, I just love real estate. I love being creative. My first house, I pulled money out of my K because I'm over 59 and a half. I can do that without a fine. My second house, I used some private money. My third house, I did seller financing. So I'm using all different kinds of strategies. And if I buy them and they're listed, I can use part of my real estate commission for down payment or closing costs or whatever I need to throw that money into the pot. And then I also get the appreciation. So we're actually fixing the houses up and I get the appreciation. So I'm kind of doing a little bit of a BRRRR strategy. I went in with seller financing. I bought it below market because I pulled my own CMA to help suggest the price. And then we just did a giant remodel and I'm going to pull all my money out so I have infinite returns on that house.
Wow. Well, it's challenging that, you are doing a lot of it yourself, which can be a lot of mental load, a lot of decision making, and then financially, more of a load. On the flip side, you're doing great.
Yeah, I think I've just really been blessed because the opportunities present themselves. And I've never been a grant writer, so I threw my hat in the ring and tried grant writing, and I won all the grants I applied for. So I hope that I have that kind of momentum going forward. And then, forming a nonprofit, who knew I'd be doing that? And all the opportunities that opens up, so many opportunities. And I'm going to tell people, your listeners, that, if you like ChatGPT, you can just go in and ask ChatGPT, what grants are available? Give me 10 grants that are available to me in the area that I'm working in. Like I'm homeless people and clean and sober people. And then it'll just tell you the opportunities that are near you. And I even asked Chat, like, hey, only give me the grants that you think I could actually qualify for so I'm not wasting my time. I get those. And then I just put it in a spreadsheet and it'll even give you the links to the website so you can go apply for it.
I love it. Now, along those lines, if someone listening is a real estate investor who wants to get into this impact real estate, like sober living, recovery housing, some sort of mission-driven space like that, what is the first step you would tell them to take?
Well, I would learn about this business first, to make sure you understand the business, how it works, how you get the people into the house and who pays for them, and then get to know the vendors in your community. And you can do that through some ChatGPT searches or Google searches. I used a Yellow Page search tool and collected all the nonprofits in my area and then start reaching out to them and say, hey, I'm going to open a clean and sober house and I want to provide this service to the community and I just wanted to introduce myself and then ask them if they have a need for housing. And then you can start collecting those people and that would pay for the people to come to your house. So I would get that first, at least get a list of maybe 7 or 8 vendors that would be willing to pay for people that are coming into your house. And then they actually supply the people for you. And then, of course, you would need the real estate to be in a big a big house, 3 bathrooms, close to public transportation. So it's functional for the amount of people you're putting in there.
Now, I'm curious, and I don't know what the answer to this is, Terri. I don't like to ask questions but I'm curious. When you look ahead 5 or 10 years, what's your vision for your company, this Olive Branch culture? Where do you envision it being in 5 or 10 years?
That's a good question. So I used to think, I want 10 houses. I mean, 10's a good number, good round number, I want to scale to 10 houses, but then sometimes I think, oh, maybe I'll scale to 5 houses, but then do wraparound services to go with it. So find different ways to make money off of each house without having to buy more inventory. I don't know which direction I'm going to end up going, but knowing me, I'll probably go do the 10 houses and the wraparound services.
Yeah, you'll do both. I love it. Now, we've talked a little bit, I think, before. If somebody wanted to partner or work with you, are you open to having somebody work with you? What does that look like? What are you looking for?
I think what would be helpful is if I have private investors come in and help me to take down the real estate, and then I could lease it to the nonprofit, as the tenant, and, share the returns that an investor would get. And then, of course, I would probably want to buy them out eventually. So maybe a 3 to 5 year buy-in.
And what is the best way for people to reach out to you if they're interested in learning more about what you're doing and investing, or, they just want to connect further?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, olivebranchculture.org. And we have contact information on the website.
And guys, if you are driving or something like that, it's, of course, as always, in the show notes. So you can grab that link below and go check out to connect further with Terri. So thank you so much, Terri, for everything you shared with us today. This has been amazing. If you had any last thoughts or words you wanted to share before we wrapped up.
My Move Forward program is to work more closely with you. I took your VA Launchpad course, and which taught me how to get a virtual assistant and what that looks like, and how to move through, how to hire them and how to keep them busy, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to move more in that direction, and I was hoping to connect more with you for that service.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And we will definitely do that. So I'm excited. I always love helping every investor, however I can help them be a better investor, do more, because that ultimately helps you achieve your dreams, right? And makes the world a better place. So I love that, and we will. Well, thank you again, Terri. And for our listeners, if you got value from this conversation, please go ahead and give this a review, stars, wherever you are listening, and then join me again next week for another episode of The Freedom Blueprint.